Number. Black men have come at me when I say there's not enough eligible men, and they push back at me. But one of the things I've realized about good black men is that you don't realize that, first of all, there's not a gazillion more like you. I've noticed this even with my husband. There's a lack of awareness around what is eligible and the availability of black men. My husband thinks so many men are just like him, that there's just really a bunch of Carrie Popes running around that are solid, hard-working, intelligent, marriage material, mature, grown men who want to be responsible and want to build a family. And I'm like, Carrie Pope, no. So ladies, by the time you take out the rappers, the gold teeth, the sagging pants, the young ones who just ain't even ready for marriage, now you got a whole other demographic of black men who have sworn off black women. Whole movements created to completely giving up on black women.
Hey, my Amo brothers, and back again. And this one is actually sponsored by Young Grizzly. Shout out to Young Grizzly. I'll put his channel link into the description. We're actually in Telegram, just talking shit. And we're talking about women complaining, or women actually selling, tricking on, plenty of fish, and the price of punani going down, right? And what we came to conclude, and I think it was something that Grizzly said, that they blame the man that they're under, or that that's under them, or that they're under when they're having sex, as a complaint for their lives. In other words, they think they should be better. They think that what they have, they're settling for. And if you're in the market, man, you're in the market, you're trading, or you're doing stocks or something like that, at the end of a period, it's called a settlement, right? If you got any kind of trade in, there's a settlement date. There's a price that's a settlement. Whether you owe money or somebody owes you money, there's a settlement in the middle someplace, right? And women, especially black women, don't like to be in the market. They don't like a competitive market. It's because Jim Crow and racism has made the black community and black mating a non-competitive market, so that men had to settle for what they could get. Men have been settling for 200 years on the kind of woman that they could get. And black men had to overpay for the kind of women they could get. Now, some guys can get sex, they can be concubines, they can get sex, but the thing is, they couldn't get a woman. Most guys couldn't get a woman at the kind of woman that they wanted. They had to settle. They had to settle for a certain kind of woman, unless you got lucky. And now that the market has flipped, and it is a competitive market, and black women are crying because now they have to compete, and they have to put what their wares and who they are and their vagina on the open market. But the thing is that old training that has been passed down for 200 years, that your vagina is worth more than it actually is. In other words, a black woman, especially black mothers and aunties, tell her daughter, or their daughters, that their vagina is the most valuable thing in the world. Their most precious gift is what's between their legs. And they should extract the maximum price for it, because it's worth anything else that a man can give you. And it make you believe like you have the only one, and yours is the only one that counts, which is true. If the vagina is yours is the only one that counts. But guess what? God didn't stop making vaginas when he made yours. There's 4 billion of them on the planet. And there is no undersupply of vagina. And believe it or not, I hate to say it, your little trade workers, your diesels, have proven that one vagina can actually satisfy about 8 to 10 men if necessary, which is why the first thing that women did, white women did, and they were smart, they closed two things. They closed the bars with prohibition, and they closed the brothels. They regulated the supply of alcohol, and they regulated the supply of vagina so that the price would go up. And men would have to spend their time and their resources at home and pay the maximum price for the vagina that they bought. So now that all that has abated, and especially with black men, the cap has been taken off of who you can date, especially since they import so many Latinas every year. Now you have a competitive market. Black men don't have to date black women or be around black women or have sex with black women. There's plenty of punani, white, black, and Latina on the market that's competing for the same guy, for the same customer. And even if you look at the black community, Rebecca Lynn Pope was just complaining about it. I may put a clip of that at the front end about the lack of availability of not what women or vagina, but men. And she's complaining about quality men and the lack of them. That's a scarcity. Law of supply and demand is that now the men are worth more. A quality man should be worth more in this environment. Quality man should be worth more. So why is regular run-of-the-mill vagina that has an oversupply, because there's 2 million more black women than there are black men, there's an oversupply. So you have to be socialized, you have to be brainwashed into believing that there's an undersupply. Men have to be brainwashed into believing that there's undersupply of vagina and you can't get it. And there's a reason that you can't get it. It's because there's not enough of them. Now we have different qualities of vagina, qualities of women, in looks, in attitude, in class. And there's a limiter to some of that stuff. But the thing is, if you just want vagina, if you just want to have sex, there is no undersupply of vagina. There's plenty of it around. Your dating coaches have told you that forever. And if all the women were actually monogamous, then there will be a closed loop about sex. But women are not monogamous, especially modern women. They go through 5 partners a year. That means if that's the case, there's more than enough coochie to go around at some point in that year. Stop believing that there's an undersupply of sex. There is no shortage of pussy. There is no shortage. The shortage is only in your mind. It's only what you've been told. That's how come they have to reinforce it. That's how come they have to reinforce prostitution laws. It's not about trafficking. They're trying to keep the price of sex up, just like they do with housing. If they built more houses, the price would plummet, because the only reason that you rent, the only reason that you pay a whole bunch of money for houses is to keep yourself off the street. So if they made of more supply, which there is no limit to the supply of housing that can be built, the price would plummet. That's how come they go through homeless shelters and homeless encampments and wipe it out. Not just about disease. If people know they can survive without paying the exorbitant price of housing, the price of housing would plummet. Same thing with pussy. If they didn't try to keep a strict control of the availability of sex, the price of vagina would plummet. Would plummet overnight. I've seen it in the crack era, when the average price was $25 to $30, which sounds cheap compared to the $170 to the $100 that I've been reported. That's what it costs. I don't know, okay, because I'm not in the market anymore. I would never pay $100 for vagina. Let's put it that way. It's not in me. But I'm old school. But back then, when I was a young man, $25 to $30, right? Within 3 years, when the market got flooded, it dropped to $5. Supply and demand. Supply and demand is for any commodity, and we tend to think that pussy is not a commodity, and it is, because it can be sold and traded. It's actually subject to the law of supply and demand, just like any other entity, any other commodity. And with the evictions, with the loss of jobs, with cuts in benefits that they have to do, that's what's going to have to hit the market at a much cheaper price. They're going to have to flood the market with what? Pussy. Because guess what? To women, that's the most valuable commodity that they have. It's renewable, right? But the thing is, there is an oversupply, not an undersupply of vagina. In the black community, there always has been. Back then, During Jim Crow, when so many men got X'd, got eliminated, women actually appreciated men because they knew the true value of a man. There wasn't that many of them, and especially a good man. A good man was actually valued and appreciated and sought after because they had to have them. In other words, there was a shortage of them. So basically, women actually fought over men. They did. They fought over men. And they did what was necessary to attract a man and keep one, because they knew that a good man, a decent man, a man that had a job was a valuable commodity and in short supply. But the modern woman doesn't realize that. And they have been socialized to think that it's an undersupply of sex, punani. And it's not. There's an oversupply. And I just want guys to think about that. Start thinking about sex as a commodity and not this valued, hallowed throne that you need to sacrifice yourself to. Stop letting these chicks brainwash you and gaslight you into think that there's this undersupply of sex. And I hear guys in my comment section, the mouth watering over freaking 4, over Stefco. Stefco's are less than a dime a dozen. Stefco knows that she's actually at half price. That's how come she takes herself off the market. She knows what it's worth. She knows that she can't demand that somebody buy her a drink or wine and dine her because she's not valuable enough. And what she has is in oversupply. It's not even a question. 2 million more black women than men. 8 million more black women that have jobs than black men. Especially when you get under $50,000. If you look at the range between of so-called working class, working middle class, between 20 and 50, there are more women in that class. There just are, especially with the way that the laws and the jobs are distributed now. In the lower classes, there are more women. If there are more women, then there is an oversupply of sex. There's an oversupply of vagina. Stop being gaslighted by this society that the vagina is worth more than it is, because it's not. And in a year or so, in fact, you're already finding out that the price of vagina is falling. And you got women with 4 kids living in a hotel trying to sell it for $70 or trying to sell it for $50. It's a commodity now, and it's going to plummet because if more women catch on to this is the way to actually get by, they're going to get into the market. And just like what happened to OnlyFans, where only a few women actually make the kind of money that's put out there, they're going to wish they could make $1,000 a month, or wish they could get value for what they put out there. But the true price will be found. It's always someplace in the middle. Always someplace in the middle. Women are going to have to settle, which is something they don't want to do. Either settle, or you're going to have to be that diesel on the street on the corner trying to make ends meet. Anyway, that's all I got for this one. This is BGS out, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.